The night in the scorched zone was cold despite the volcanic vents. The twins slept in their heated compartment, while the three humans took turns keeping watch. Doyen sat by a small fire during his watch shift, staring at the stars. He thought about the family trapped in the crashed ship, wondering if they were still alive. When dawn came, it painted the sky in shades of red and orange. Everyone woke quickly and ate a fast breakfast. There was nervous energy in the air. Today they would either save a family or find out they were too late. 5 miles, Sora said, checking his navigation device. We should be there in less than an hour. The twins were quiet as they got into their compartment. Hana's hand shook as she closed the door. Minho stared ahead, afraid to hope. The hauler moved forward through the rocky terrain. The landscape became even more hostile here. The ground was covered with sharp rocks that scraped against the hauler's underside. Pools of acid water bubbled in low areas. The air smelled like sulfur. I'm reading the ship's emergency beacon, Sora said suddenly. It's weak, but it's still transmitting. That's a good sign. How good? Taeyang asked. It means the ship's power systems are still functioning at some level, Sora explained. That usually means the life support is still working. The twins heard this through their communication device. Hana grabbed Minho's hand and squeezed it. Maybe their family was still alive. They crested a hill and looked down into a ravine. There, wedged between rocks and half buried in dirt, was the ship. It was small and round, designed for a single family. The metal hull was dented and torn in places. Part of it was crushed under a pile of large rocks. There, Minho said, pointing. His voice was full of emotion. Doyen drove the hauler carefully down the slope. As they got closer, they could see the damage more clearly. The ship's entrance was completely blocked by rocks and debris from a landslide. The back section, where the engines were, was crushed beyond repair. But the middle section, the life support area, looked mostly intact. They stopped the hauler 50 feet from the ship. Everyone got out and walked closer. Doyen examined the situation with his experienced eyes. His face was serious. Can we get them out? Taeyang asked quietly. Doyen didn't answer right away. He walked around the ship, looking at it from different angles. He touched the rocks blocking the entrance, testing their stability. The twins watched him, their hearts pounding. Finally, Doyen spoke. The entrance is blocked solid. Tons of rock. We can't dig through that. And the ship's hull is too unstable to cut through. If we try to cut an opening, the whole thing might collapse. So we can't get them out? Hana's voice was small and broken. I didn't say that, Doyen said. He continued examining the wreckage. I said we can't use the normal methods. Sora was checking the ship with his scanner. The life support section is reading very weak power levels. I'd say they have maybe 6 hours of oxygen left. Possibly less, 6 hours. That wasn't much time. Taeyang walked to the ship's hull and tapped on it. A faint tapping came back from inside. Someone was alive in there. She pulled out a communication device and pressed it against the hull. Hello, can you hear me? A weak voice came through the device. Yes. Yes, we hear you. Who is this? My name is Taeyang. I'm a human. I'm here with your children, Hana and Minho. We're going to get you out. There was a sob from inside the ship. Our children. They're alive? They're safe? They're safe, Taeyang said. They're very brave. They walked 50 miles to find help. Please, the voice said. It sounded like it belonged to a woman, probably Yuna, the mother. Please, our little ones are very weak. The air is getting bad. Please hurry. We will, Taeyang promised. She turned to look at Doyen and Sora. The three humans stood together, talking in low voices. They pointed at different parts of the wreckage. They gestured at the rocks. They discussed options. The twins couldn't hear what they were saying, but they could see the serious expressions on their faces. After several minutes, Doyen walked back to the hauler and started pulling out equipment. His movements were quick and decisive. He had a plan. We're going to create a tunnel support system, Doyen explained as he worked. We'll use tree trunks from the hauler as support beams. We remove the rocks one at a time very carefully and replace them with supports. It's slow, but it's safe. How long will that take? Hana asked. 2 or 3 hours if everything goes perfectly, Sora said. But they only have 6 hours of oxygen, Minho said. Then we'll work fast, Doyen said simply. What happened next was a display of human determination that the twins would never forget. The three humans worked together like parts of a single machine. Each person knew exactly what to do without being told. Doyen used his equipment to carefully remove rocks from the pile. He started from the top, taking away smaller rocks first to reduce the weight pressing down on the ship. Each rock was tested to make sure removing it wouldn't cause a collapse. Sora positioned support beams made from the tree trunks Doyen had brought. He calculated exact angles and load distributions in his head, using his engineering knowledge to keep the structure stable. Taeyang stayed in contact with the family inside the ship. She monitored their oxygen levels and kept them calm. Every few minutes she would reassure them that progress was being made. The twins helped in small ways. They squeezed through tiny gaps between rocks to attach cables to the ship's internal frame. Their small size was actually an advantage here. They could go places the humans couldn't reach. After 1 hour, they had removed a quarter of the rocks. After 2 hours, half were gone. The sun climbed higher in the sky, making the work even harder in the heat. Doyen's clothes were soaked with sweat. Sora's hands were bleeding from handling the rough support beams. Taeyang's voice was hoarse from talking constantly to the family inside. But they didn't stop. They didn't slow down. They kept working with the same steady intensity. Inside the ship, Yuna watched her 3 young children. Bomi, Suho, and Jiwoo were barely conscious. The air was so thin now that it hurt to breathe. Her husband, Jinho, had an injury to his leg from the crash. He was trying to stay awake, but his eyes kept closing. "We're almost there," Taeyang's voice came through the communication device. "Stay with us. Stay awake. The children," Yuna said weakly. "Please, save the children first." "We're going to save all of you," Taeyang said firmly. "All of you. That's not negotiable." After 2.5 hours, they broke through. Doyen removed the last large rock, and there was a gap big enough for a person to fit through. Not a large gap, but enough. "Taeyang, you're the smallest," Doyen said. "You go in first. Take oxygen tanks and medical supplies." Taeyang grabbed her medical bag and oxygen tanks. She squeezed through the narrow gap into the ship's crushed interior. Inside, the air was hot and stale. She could barely breathe. She found the family in the life support chamber. 5 Velkari, all weak and gasping. The 3 young children were unconscious. The parents were barely holding on. "I'm here," Taeyang said, putting an oxygen mask on the first child. "You're going to be okay now." She worked quickly, giving each family member oxygen. As they breathed the fresh air, color returned to their shells. The children began to wake up. Yuna started crying with relief. Outside, Doyun and Sora widened the gap. They worked carefully to make sure the structure didn't collapse. After 20 more minutes, the opening was big enough to bring people out. One by one, the family was rescued. First, the 3 young children carried out by Taeyang, then Jinho, who couldn't walk on his injured leg. Finally, Yuna, who refused to leave until she saw that all her children were safe. When Yuna emerged into the daylight, she saw Hana and Minho waiting for her. The twins ran to their mother, and she held them with all 4 of her arms, crying and laughing at the same time. Jinho was reunited with his children as well. The whole family held each other, alive and together. Doyun stood back, watching the reunion. He was exhausted. His body hurt. But he was smiling. Taeyang was treating the family's injuries and dehydration. Sora was checking everyone's vital signs. The 3 young children were weak, but would recover with proper care and rest. Yuna looked up at the 3 humans. She slowly reached out with one delicate foreleg and touched Doyen's hand. In Velkari culture, this was the highest sign of trust and gratitude. It meant she would trust him with her life and the lives of her children. "Thank you," she said in broken galactic common. "You save our family. We have nothing to give you, but we owe you everything." Doyen knelt down to her level. "You don't owe us anything. We just did what anyone should do." But Yuna shook her head. "No, not anyone. We ask Galactic Coalition. We ask settlement. Everyone say no. Say we not worth the risk. Say we not important. Only humans say yes. Only humans come." She looked at Hana and Minho. "Our children tell us humans are different. Now we see it's true." The journey back to the settlement took longer than the journey out. The hauler moved slowly and carefully because they were carrying injured passengers. The 3 young Velkari children slept in the heated compartment with their older siblings. Yuna and Jinho sat with them, watching their children breathe easily now that they had clean air and medical care. Taeyang checked on the family every hour. Jinho's leg was properly bandaged now. The children's oxygen levels were returning to normal. They would all make a full recovery. As they traveled, Yuna talked with the humans through the communication device. She wanted to understand these strange beings who had saved her family when no one else would. In Galaxy, everyone knows humans are crazy, she said in her improving galactic common. They say humans do dangerous things for no good reason. They say humans don't understand when to quit. That's true, Sora said with a laugh. We are a bit crazy. But now I understand, Yuna continued. Not crazy, just different. You have thing inside you that says don't leave anyone behind. Other species not have this thing. Some do, Taeyang said. There are good people in every species. Maybe, Yuna said. But humans make it simple. You don't ask if person is important. You don't calculate if person is worth saving. You just see someone needs help and you help. This is strange to us, but also beautiful. Doyen listened to this conversation while he drove. He had never thought of himself as special or strange. He was just doing what felt right. But maybe that was the point. Maybe what felt right to humans was different from what felt right to other species. They reached the settlement as the sun was setting. News of their return had already spread. A crowd of humans had gathered to greet them. Someone had set up medical tents. Someone else had prepared food and water. As the Velkari family emerged from the holler, the crowd cheered. Not because the Velkari were important or powerful. Just because they were alive. Just because a family had been saved. Over the next few weeks, something unexpected happened. The Velkari family decided to stay on Timber 7. Other settlements in the galaxy had offered to take them in, but Yuna and Jinho wanted to stay near the humans who had saved them. This place feels like home now, Yuna told Doyen one day, because you made us feel like family. The settlement leaders helped the family build a small house designed for Velkari needs. It had low ceilings and small doorways. It had temperature controls that could adjust to their preferences. The humans treated this as completely normal, even though most places in the galaxy wouldn't bother adapting buildings for such a small species. Hana and Minho started attending the human school. At first, the human children were curious about having alien classmates. But within days, the twins were just part of the group. They taught the human children about Velkari mathematics, which used a different number system. The human children taught them about Earth history and games. Yuna discovered she had a talent for communication systems. The settlement's communication officer was an older human who was planning to retire. Yuna offered to help, and soon she was managing all of the settlement's communications. Her Velkari technology knowledge improved their systems significantly. Jinho, once his leg healed, took a job in resource management. Velkari were naturally good at organizing and tracking inventory. He created new systems that made the settlement's supply chains more efficient, but the story didn't end there. The twins had recorded everything on their holo device: the journey through the scorched zone, the fight with the predators, the rescue operation. They had captured it all. At first, they just showed it to their human friends at school. But one of the children showed it to her parents. Those parents shared it on the local network. From there, it spread to other human settlements, and then it escaped into the wider galactic network. Within a month, billions of beings across hundreds of planets had seen the footage. They watched 3 humans casually do what an entire Galactic Coalition rescue division had deemed impossible. They watched these humans work for hours to save a family they didn't know, from a species most people didn't respect. The footage sparked something across the galaxy. Debates raged on political forums. The Velkari Council, which had always been dismissed as a minor voice in galactic politics, suddenly found themselves invited to important meetings. Human delegates at the Galactic Coalition insisted that the Velkari be given proper representation. If 7 Velkari, lives matter enough for 3 random humans to risk everything, one human delegate said in a famous speech, then Velkari lives should matter to all of us. Other things began to change too. A dozen human volunteers arrived on Velkari homeworlds, teaching their engineering techniques and rescue methods. They helped build better ships and better safety systems. They treated Velkari as equals, as people worth protecting, and it wasn't just the Velkari. Other small species, other dismissed peoples began to receive more attention. The human example had shown that size and power weren't what determined value. Every life mattered. Every person deserved help when they needed it. On Timber 7, Doyen tried to ignore all the attention. News organizations from across the galaxy wanted to interview him. He refused most of them, He just wanted to get back to cutting trees and living his quiet life. But he couldn't escape it completely. One day, a formal delegation from the Velkari Council arrived at the settlement. They wanted to give Doyen, Taeyang, and Sora medals of honor. They wanted to make a big ceremony. Doyen stood in his workshop looking uncomfortable in clean clothes instead of his usual work gear. The Velkari Council leader, an old female named Yunji, presented him with a small crystalline medal. "You showed the galaxy something important," Yunji said. "You showed that compassion is not weakness. You showed that helping others is not foolish. You showed that every life has value." Doyen accepted the medal awkwardly. "I just helped some kids find their parents," he said. "No," Yunji said gently. "You did more than that. You changed how the galaxy sees my people. You changed how we see ourselves." That evening, there was a celebration in the settlement. Humans and Velkari ate together, talked together, laughed together. More Velkari families had arrived in recent weeks, attracted by stories of this strange place where they were treated as equals. Doyen sat at a table with Taeyang and Sora, watching the celebration. The three young Velkari children, Bomi, Suho, and Jiwoo, were playing with human children. They chased each other around the tables, their laughter mixing together. "Did you think it would turn into all this?" Taeyang asked Doyen. "No," Doyen said honestly. "I just thought we'd rescue a family and that would be it." "That's the thing about doing the right thing," Sora said. "You never know how far the effects will spread." Hana and Minho approached their table. The twins had grown more confident in recent weeks. They stood straighter now, spoke louder. Being treated with respect had changed them. "Doyen," Hana said, "can we talk to you?" Of course, the twins looked at each other, then back at him. "More Velkari are coming to Timber 7. Many of them are orphans. Children who lost their parents in accidents or were abandoned because no one wanted to care for them. We want to help them," Minho continued. "Like you helped us, but we don't know how," Doyen smiled. "You know more than you think. You know what it feels like to be scared and alone. You know what it feels like when someone helps you. Use that knowledge. Show them the same kindness we showed you. Will you help us?" Hana asked. Doyen looked at Taeyang and Sora. They both nodded. Then he looked back at the twins. "Of course we'll help. That's what we do." 3 months after the rescue, the settlement had changed. It was no longer just a human logging town. It was the first true human Velkari joint settlement. Other species were starting to arrive too, attracted by stories of this place where everyone was treated fairly. The settlement needed a new name. The humans and Velkari held a vote. They decided to call it New Hope. One morning, Doyen was back in the forest, cutting trees like he had always done. But he wasn't alone anymore. Hana and Minho often came with him, riding in his hauler and talking about their studies. Sometimes Velkari workers would join him, learning the logging trade. On this particular morning, Hana and Minho arrived at his workshop with a group of young Velkari behind them. About 20 children, all looking nervous and scared. "Doyen," Hana said, "these are the orphans we told you about. They arrived yesterday. They don't have anywhere to go." Doyen looked at the group of scared children. He saw himself reflected in their large eyes. Not literally, of course, but he saw the same need for help, the same hope that someone would care. He put down his tools and knelt down to their level. "Welcome to New Hope," he said gently. "You're safe here. You're home." And in that moment, standing in a logging settlement on a frontier planet surrounded by children from another species, Doyen understood something important. The galaxy was changing, not because of laws or treaties or political agreements, but because people, human and alien alike, were choosing kindness over indifference. They were choosing to help instead of walking away. It had started with 2 small twins asking a giant lumberjack for help. But it had grown into something much bigger. A movement. A change in how beings treated each other. And it all started because one human had said a simple sentence. The scorched zone lived up to its name. The ground was black and cracked, with steam rising from fissures in the earth. Dead trees stood like dark skeletons against the gray sky. The temperature had risen 20 degrees since they entered this area. Doyen drove carefully, steering the hauler around deep cracks in the ground and pools of bubbling mud. In the back, Hana and Minho pressed their faces to the window, watching the hostile landscape with wide eyes. "How our ships survive here?" Minho asked. "Your parents must be very skilled pilots," Sora said. "Landing a damaged ship in terrain like this without everyone dying takes real talent." They had been traveling for 3 hours when Doyun suddenly stopped the hauler. He held up his hand for silence. Everyone froze. "What is it?" Taeyang whispered. "Something's watching us," Doyun said. His eyes scanned the rocky landscape around them. Then they heard it. A low growl that seemed to come from everywhere at once. Shadows moved between the dead trees. One shadow became clearer, then another, then 5 more. They were creatures unlike anything the twins had seen before. They looked like bears from Earth, but much bigger. Their fur was dark red, almost black. Their eyes glowed yellow in the dim light. Each one was easily twice the size of the hauler. "Pack predators," Sora said, his voice tight with fear. "I read about these in the settlement database. They hunt in groups. Very territorial." The creatures circled the hauler, growling and showing their teeth. There were 8 of them. The leader, the biggest one, stepped forward. It roared, a sound so loud that the hauler's windows shook. In their compartment, Hana and Minho held each other. "What we do?" Hana asked, her voice shaking. Taeyang was checking her equipment. "I have a pulse rifle, but it would take too long to recalibrate it for creatures this size. The energy settings are wrong." "We don't have time for that," Doyen said. He looked at the dead trees surrounding them, then at his cutting equipment in the back of the hauler. A plan formed in his mind. "Sora, can you operate the hauler's controls?" Doyen asked. "Yes, why?" "When I give the signal, move forward slowly. Don't stop no matter what." Doyen climbed out of his seat and went to the back of the hauler where his logging equipment was stored. "What are you doing?" Taeyang asked. "Something I'm good at," Doyun said. He grabbed his plasma cutter, a tool he used for cutting through the biggest trees. He also took out his pulley system and cables. The lead predator roared again and charged toward the hauler. Doyun jumped out of the back, landing hard on the ground. The twins screamed, "Doyun, get back in!" Taeyang shouted, but Doyun was already moving. He ran toward the nearest dead tree, a massive trunk that stood 30 feet tall. The plasma cutter came to life with a bright blue flame. In seconds, Doyun cut through the base of the tree. The tree began to fall exactly where Doyun intended. It crashed down between the hauler and the charging predator, creating a barrier. The creature skidded to a stop, confused. "Now, Sora, move forward," Doyun shouted. The hauler rolled forward. Doyun ran alongside it, cutting down another tree. This one fell behind them, blocking the path of 3 predators trying to circle around. The other predators roared in anger. 2 of them tried to jump over the fallen trees, but Doyun was ready. He switched his plasma cutter to its highest setting and created a wall of fire along the tree trunks. The creatures jumped back, afraid of the flames. "Keep going," Doyun shouted. He jumped back into the moving hauler, breathing hard. The predators followed them for another mile, but the fire barriers kept them at a distance. Eventually, the creatures gave up and returned to their territory. The team was safe. Inside the hauler, everyone was quiet for a moment. Then Taeyang started laughing. "You used logging equipment to fight off giant predators. That's the most human thing I've ever seen." Sora shook his head in amazement. "The Galactic Coalition has energy weapons, force fields, all kinds of advanced technology. And you just used a tree cutter and some fire." Doyun shrugged. "Use what you know." "I know trees." The twins were staring at him with new respect. Hana spoke softly. "The stories about humans are true. You really don't quit." "We're not there yet," Doyun said. "Still have 30 miles to go." But the predators weren't their only problem. 2 hours later, the hauler's front wheels broke through weak ground. The vehicle tilted dangerously to one side, stuck in a hidden hole. Doyun tried to reverse, but the wheels just spun uselessly. They were stuck. "We're too heavy," Sora said, checking the hauler's systems. "The ground here is unstable. We need to lighten the load or find a way to lift the vehicle." "We can't leave the supplies behind," Taeyang said. "We need them for the rescue." Doyun climbed out to assess the situation. The front of the hauler had sunk 3 feet into soft earth. It would take a massive amount of force to pull it out. "Can we call for help?" Minho asked. "We're too deep in the scorched zone," Sora said. "Communications don't work here. Too much interference from the volcanic activity." Taeyang joined Doyun outside. Together they examined the problem. "We could try digging it out," she suggested. "That would take hours," Doyun said, "and the ground might collapse more." He looked at the hauler, thinking. Then he looked at the equipment in the back. "We'll lift it." "Lift it?" Sora said, joining them. "Doyun, this hauler weighs several tons. Even with portable jacks, we don't have anything strong enough." "We don't need jacks," Doyun said. He started pulling out his cables and pulleys. We need leverage, and we need to work together. What happened next amazed the twins. The three humans worked with incredible coordination. Doyen found a strong rock formation 20 feet away. He secured cables to it. Sora set up a pulley system that multiplied their pulling force. Taeyang positioned support beams under the hauler to prevent it from sinking further. Then the three of them pulled. They pulled with every bit of strength they had. Their faces turned red with effort. Sweat poured down their bodies. The cables stretched tight, making creaking sounds. "It's not moving," Sora grunted. "Keep pulling," Doyen shouted. "Don't stop!" Inside the hauler, Hana and Minho watched through the window. They saw these three humans refusing to give up. Even when the task seemed impossible, the twins looked at each other, then climbed out of their compartment. "What are you doing?" Taeyang called to them. "Stay inside where it's safe." "No," Hana said firmly. "You help us. We help you." The tiny twins grabbed onto the cable behind the humans. Their strength was small compared to the humans, but they pulled with everything they had. "All together now," Doyen shouted. 1, 2, 3, pull." They all pulled at the same time. For a moment, nothing happened. Then slowly the hauler began to move. Inch by inch, it lifted out of the hole. The wheels found solid ground. With one final effort, the hauler rolled free. Everyone collapsed on the ground, breathing hard. Doyen started laughing. "We did it!" Taeyang looked at the twins with respect. "You didn't have to help. You're so small, you barely added any force." "Not about force," Minho said, repeating something Doyen had said earlier. "It's about not quitting." They rested for 10 minutes, drinking water and eating energy bars. Then they climbed back into the hauler and continued their journey. As they drove, Minho asked Taeyang a question. "Why humans so strong?" "We're from a planet with higher gravity than most worlds," Taeyang explained. "Earth. Our bodies evolved to be stronger to deal with the heavier pull. But honestly, we're not that special physically. Lots of species are stronger than us." "Then why you seem so strong?" Hana asked. Taeyang thought about it. "I think it's because we don't quit easily. My grandfather used to tell me a story about Doyen. Once his hauler broke down in the middle of the forest. He had a huge tree trunk on it, too big to leave behind. So he carried it. For 3 miles. It took him all day. Most people would have just left it and come back later. But that's just not how Doyen is." The twins were beginning to understand. Humans weren't the strongest species. They weren't the smartest. But they had something else. Something that made them different. They had a stubbornness, a refusal to give up that other species didn't have. As the sun began to set, Sora checked their position. "We're close. Maybe 5 more miles. We'll camp here tonight," Doyen said. "It's too dangerous to approach the crash site in the dark. We'll need good visibility to assess the situation." They set up a small camp in a sheltered area between 2 rock formations. Taeyang made a simple meal for everyone. The twins ate quietly, thinking about their family. They were so close now. Tomorrow they would see them again if they were still alive. Doyen worked through the night. Hana and Minho watched him from a corner of the workshop, wrapped in a thermal blanket he had given them. They had never seen anyone work so hard for strangers before. The big human moved around his workshop like a man on a mission. He checked his cutting tools, making sure they were sharp and fully charged. He filled containers with water and packed enough food for a week. He loaded medical supplies into waterproof bags. Every movement had a purpose. Around midnight, Hana asked him a question that had been bothering her. "Doyen, why you help us? You don't know us. We are Velkari. Most big species think we are pests." Doyen didn't stop working, but he answered while he packed. "My mother used to say that the measure of a person isn't how they treat the powerful. It's how they treat those who can't do anything for them in return." Minho tilted his small head. "Your mother sound wise." "She was," Doyen said with a sad smile. "She died when I was young, but I remember her lessons." He pulled out a strange-looking device and started working on it with his tools. The twins watched as he modified it, changing its shape and size. After an hour, he held it up. It looked like a breathing mask, but much smaller than the ones made for humans. "What is that?" Hana asked. "Environmental suit adapter," Doyen said. "Made it fit Velkari size. If we need to go through areas with bad air or extreme heat, you'll need protection. The ones they sell in stores are only made for big species. Figured I should make one that actually fits you." The twins stared at the device. No one had ever made anything special for their species before. Everything in the galaxy was built for bigger aliens. Velkari always had to make do with things that didn't quite fit. You made this for us? Minho's voice was full of wonder. Someone should have made it a long time ago, Doyen said.
He handed it to Hana. Try it on.
Make sure it fits right. As Hana tested the mask, they heard sounds outside. Voices, footsteps. The twins pressed closer together, afraid it might be more people coming to tell them no. The workshop door opened. 2 more humans walked in. One was a woman with short black hair and kind eyes. She carried a large medical bag. The other was a man with glasses and grease stains on his clothes. He had a tool belt around his waist. Heard you're going into the scorched zone, the woman said to Doyen. Thought you might need a medic. And an engineer, the man added. I'm Sora, that's Taeyang. We're coming with you. Doyen looked at them. You don't have to do this. It's dangerous. Could take days. Might not even succeed, Taeyang laughed. That's exactly why we're coming. You think we'd let you have all the adventure? She looked at the twins and smiled. Besides, kids need their family. We're going to help bring them home. Sora walked over to examine Doyen's equipment. Smart thinking on the environmental adapter. I brought some extra cables and a portable generator. If their ship systems are down, we might need to power them back up. The twins watched this exchange with confusion. In their experience, help had to be begged for. You had to fill out forms. You had to prove your worth. You had to wait for committees to make decisions. But these humans just heard about a problem and showed up to help. No questions asked. Why? Hana asked softly. Why do you come? You don't know our family. Taeyang knelt down to the twins' level just like Doyen had done earlier. Because Doyen goes, we go. That's how it works with humans. When one of us decides to help, others follow. We look out for each other. And right now you're part of our group, so we look out for you too. Minho felt tears in his eyes again. He tried to speak but couldn't find words. Sora pulled out a bag from his backpack. Brought some thermal blankets and high-calorie food. Small species lose heat faster than big ones. You'll need to stay warm during the journey. He handed the bag to Minho. Also brought some sweet crackers. Heard Velkari like sweet things. Minho opened the bag and found packages of crackers. He took one out and bit into it. His eyes went wide. It was delicious. He hadn't eaten anything this good in days. The next few hours passed quickly. The 4 of them worked together, preparing for the rescue mission. Taeyang organized medical supplies, separating them into kits for different emergencies. Sora checked all the electronic equipment and made sure the hauler's engine was running perfectly. Doyen mapped out their route, using satellite images to find the safest path through the scorched zone. As the sun started to rise, painting the sky pink and gold, everything was ready. Doyen's hauler was loaded with supplies. The team wore protective gear. The twins had their own small packs with food and water. Before they left, Taeyang made a special compartment in the hauler for the twins. She lined it with soft material and added heating elements to keep them warm. You'll ride here, she explained. It's safe and comfortable. You can see out through this window, but you'll be protected if we hit rough terrain. Hana and Minho climbed into their compartment. It was cozy and warm. Through the window, they could see the forest ahead of them. For the first time since their ship crashed, they didn't feel alone. Doyen started the hauler's engine. It rumbled to life with a deep sound. Sora sat in the passenger seat, checking his navigation device. Taeyang sat in the back, organizing her medical supplies one more time. Everyone ready? Doyen asked. Ready, Sora and Taeyang said together. Ready, the twins said in small voices. The hauler rolled forward, leaving the settlement behind. They entered the forest, following a rough path that led toward the scorched zone. The trees here were enormous, their trunks wider than the hauler. Sunlight filtered through the leaves, creating patterns of light and shadow on the ground. As they traveled, Taeyang talked to the twins through a communication device. Tell me about your family, she said. What are their names? Our mother is Yuna, Hana said. Our father is Jinho. Our little siblings are Bomi, Suho, and Jiwoo. They are only 2 years old. They very small even for Velkari. Your parents must be very brave, Taeyang said, sending you 2 out to find help while they stayed to protect the little ones. They were scared, Minho said quietly. But they didn't show it. They hugged us and told us to be strong. They said humans were good. They said if anyone would help, it would be humans. They were right, Sora said from the front seat. We're going to get them out. I promise you that. The twins wanted to believe him. They had heard promises before, from officials who said they would send help and then never did. But something about these humans was different. They didn't just make promises. They took action. The hauler moved deeper into the forest. The trees became taller and darker. Strange sounds echoed in the distance, animal calls that made the twins shiver. But they felt safe in their compartment, surrounded by these strange, kind humans who had decided to help them. Doyen drove with steady confidence. His eyes scanned the path ahead, watching for dangers. Every few minutes he checked a display that showed the distance to their destination. 50 miles had seemed impossible when the twins were walking. But in the hauler, with these 3 humans helping them, it seemed possible. As morning turned to midday, the landscape began to change. The trees were more spread out now. The ground became rockier. In the distance, they could see smoke rising from volcanic vents. They were approaching the scorched zone. "This is where it gets difficult," Doyen said. "Everyone stay alert." The sun was setting over the forest of Timber 7, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. Doyen wiped the sweat from his forehead and looked at the massive tree he had just cut down. It was a good day's work. The tree was straight and strong, perfect for the settlement's new building project. He loaded the timber onto his hauler, a large machine that could carry several tons of wood. Doyen was a big man, nearly 7 feet tall with broad shoulders and strong arms. The other humans in the settlement called him the Giant because of his size. He didn't mind. He liked working alone in the forest, away from the noise and chatter of the town. As he secured the last piece of timber, Doyen heard a sound. It was small and quiet, like a soft crying. He stopped and listened. There it was again. It came from behind a fallen log about 20 feet away. Doyen walked slowly toward the sound. He didn't want to scare away whatever was making it. As he got closer, he saw 2 small creatures hiding behind the log. They were tiny, no taller than his knee. Their bodies had a shell-like covering that shined in different colors when the light hit it. They had 4 arms and large eyes that looked up at him with fear. The creatures pressed themselves against the log, trying to make themselves even smaller. Doyen recognized them from the species database he had studied when he first came to this planet. They were Velkari, an insect-like alien race. Most people in the galaxy treated them badly because they were small and their families had many children. Doyen slowly knelt down on one knee. He wanted to be at their eye level, not towering over them like a monster. The 2 creatures shook with fear but didn't run away. "Hello?" Doyen said in Galactic Common, the language most species used to talk to each other. His voice was deep but gentle. "Are you lost?" The 2 creatures looked at each other. Then one of them, the slightly taller one, took a small step forward. When she spoke, her voice was high and trembling. "Please, we need help," she said in broken Galactic Common. We are Hana and Minho. We are twins." The smaller one, Minho, added quickly. "Our family ship crashed 3 days ago, deep in forest. They trapped." Doyen's face became serious. A ship crash was dangerous. "Are they hurt?" he asked. "We don't know," Hana said, her large eyes filling with what looked like tears. "We too small to move the rocks. We try to get help. We go to human town, but machines chase us away. Loud noises, bright lights. We run." Doyen nodded. The settlement had automatic defense systems that were programmed to keep away unknown creatures. The system didn't know the difference between a dangerous predator and 2 scared children. "We hear stories," Minho said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Stories say humans are different. Humans help even when others won't. We hope it true." Doyen reached into his pack and pulled out his water canteen. He held it out to them. "When did you last drink water?" The twins stared at the canteen like they didn't understand what he was doing. Hana slowly reached out with one of her 4 hands and took it. She drank a little, then passed it to Minho. They both drank like they hadn't had water in a long time. Then Doyen pulled out his meal ration, a bar of compressed food that tasted like nuts and berries. He broke it in half and gave each twin a piece. They took it with shaking hands and ate slowly, watching him with wide eyes. "You came to the right place," Doyen said. "Now tell me everything. Where is your family? How many people are with them?" Hana and Minho sat down on the ground and Doyen sat cross-legged in front of them. They told him their story. Their family's small ship had been traveling to a Velkari colony world when it had engine trouble. They tried to land on Timber 7 for repairs, but something went wrong. The ship crashed in a part of the forest that people called the Scorched Zone. The Scorched Zone? Doyen asked. That's 50 miles from here.
How did you two make it this far?
We walk, Minho said. Walk and hide. Walk and hide. Big animals everywhere. We very scared. Our parents told us to go find help, Hana continued. They stay with our younger siblings. 3 little ones. Only babies. They need air. Ship has air, but not for long. Maybe 2 days left. Doyen felt anger rising in his chest, but not at the twins. Did you try calling for help on your communicator? Yes, Hana said. She pulled out a small device from a pouch on her side. We send message to Galactic Coalition. They say 7 Velkari lives not worth the cost of rescue. Too dangerous. Too expensive. We try human settlement too, Minho added. Same answer. They say Scorched Zone too dangerous. They say no rescue team will go there. They say we should accept our family is gone. Hana started crying again. But they not gone. They alive. They just need help. Why no one help? Doyen was quiet for a moment. He knew why. In the galaxy, there were millions of Velkari. The big species, the ones with power and money, saw them as unimportant. Losing a few didn't matter to them. It was cruel, but it was how things worked out here. But it wasn't how things worked with humans. Show me where the ship is, Doyen said. Hana pulled out another small device, a hollow projector. She pressed a button and a blue image appeared in the air. It showed a map of the forest with a red dot deep in the Scorched Zone. She pressed another button and the image changed to show a picture of their ship. It was small, built for one family. Parts of it were crushed, buried under rocks and dirt. Doyen studied the images carefully. He looked at every detail, measuring distances in his mind, thinking about what equipment he would need. The twins watched him, barely breathing. They had seen this before, adults looking at their problem and finding reasons to say no. After a long minute, Doyen stood up. Hana's shoulders dropped. She thought he was going to refuse like everyone else. Instead, Doyen walked toward his workshop, a small building next to where he parked his hauler. Come with me, he called over his shoulder. The twins looked at each other in confusion but followed him. Inside the workshop, Doyen started pulling equipment off the walls. Cutting tools, rope, medical supplies, water containers, food rations. He moved with purpose like he was following a plan in his head. What are you doing? Hana asked. Doyen looked at her while loading a pack with supplies. I'm getting ready. We leave at first light. It's too dangerous to travel through the Scorched Zone at night and I need to prepare properly. Minho's mouth fell open. You will help us? Of course, Doyen said like it was the most obvious thing in the world. Your family needs help. You're just kids. Someone has to go get them. Hana started crying again, but this time they weren't tears of sadness. But everyone say no. They say it too dangerous. They say we not worth it. Doyen stopped what he was doing. He knelt down again and looked at both twins. His weathered face was kind but serious. Where I come from, you don't leave kids alone in the woods, he said. Doesn't matter how many legs they have. Doesn't matter what species they are. You don't leave them. That's not how we do things. For the first time in 3 days, Hana and Minho felt something warm grow in their chests. It was hope.